Hello, it's me, TinyTree, and for those who don't know, I somewhat recently made this little mobile game called Holy Mackerel. It's a fairly generic fishing game, and today we'll be going over its first year of performance, and how, like every other debut indie dev, how I underestimated marketing. Now for anyone who hasn't played this game, let me explain it. You control a fishing hook that's constantly moving. On the way down, you dodge hazards and other fish. Once you hit a fish, you reel back up and try and catch as many as possible. Players will need to avoid enemies and other hazards to avoid ending their run prematurely. The player then sells their cash to upgrade their fishing gear. Upgrades include things like line length to go deeper, bait to find rare fish, and your boat to unlock new biomes. Biomes are new fishing spots the player can slowly progress through. Each biome has a unique cast of fish, and 2 to 3 hazards with unique mechanics that the player will then need to learn to avoid. Story-wise, the goal is to progress through these biomes in the search of the legendary fish, the Holy Mackerel, while filling out your collection and customizing your character along the way. So let's go back over a year ago, back to when I launched the game. Let's firstly get my profit counter, which starts around negative 290 New Zealand dollars, from all the initial costs like licenses and music commissions. I'll probably edit in some other common currencies for context, and we'll be updating this counter as the video progresses. Anyways, picture this. Sometime around August 2024, I'm a clueless 14-year-old who thinks my under-marketed little mobile game is gonna make me a bazillionaire. Like, I genuinely thought I was gonna wake up the next morning after the release with $1 million in my account and a call from the big leagues just in time for me to switch up on all of my day ones. I'd watched Holy Mackerel reach the top 14 games in the App Store over the night of release. I was going crazy with excitement. I mean, I was above some of the biggest mobile games ever, so naturally I assumed I had made it. Like, obviously, this is how every overnight success story starts, right? Apparently not. I refreshed the analytics the next morning, and it was sitting at a lukewarm 75 to 100 installs across Android and iOS, with maybe 20 cents in ad revenue. I didn't even have a call from the little leagues. It's a bit of an understatement to say I felt a little blindsided. Now, at the time, I just chalked this up to it being a slow start, so I got to work on a new update and quickly released a new biome, Pacific Blue. With this biome, I really wanted to step things up difficulty-wise. I added pelicans which attack from above, deadly marlin swimming around, and these turtles that punish you for hitting their shells. It was chaotic and way harder than the earlier areas, and people hated it at first, understandably. It was just too chaotic, too early in the game. But after a couple nerfs here and there, the biome found its place in the game. Now, this update did see a spike in players and even revenue, mainly because I added new hat packs, which are premium cosmetic outfits players could buy in the store. Now, I never expected these to earn more than one sale at this point after seeing the lackluster amount of players, but it blew my expectations out of the water with a whopping 2 sales, with one of them being my mother. Thank you, Mum. But anyways, so about a week into the game's release, I was now sitting at around 150 players, 25 of them being from Android and the rest from iOS. So it was safe to say iOS was carrying the player base. And when I tallied up the revenue from ads and in-app purchases, I had made a $15 dent in the game's development cost. It was now around 3 weeks into the game's lifespan with no major change in its trajectory. So you would think, at this point, I would step back and rethink my strategy. Maybe focus on marketing like every other single developer recommends. And aside from a trailer, no. I doubled down and proceeded to make another biome, the Toxic Tides. Now, this is probably one of my favorite biomes, to be fair. It's full of radioactive sewer fish, pipes that block your vision, and aggressive leeches. And once again, to no one's surprise but mine, the update didn't make much of a difference. But thankfully, after the pattern repeated itself this time, I took a step back and decided that maybe I should listen to the bazillion developers, who had way more experience and way more knowledge than me, and focus on marketing for a bit. So I decided I was going to make a devlog. Unfortunately, very early into the making of this devlog, I discovered my hatred for creating videos. Now, it is a mixture of tedious tasks, writing scripts and more, but it mainly comes down to one hated task: having to record and listen to my own voice, which I still hate, even though I'm doing right now, much to my disappointment. I continued to make the devlog for a few weeks, but had announced that the game most likely wasn't getting any more updates. Just after I told everyone this, installs started going up. Not slowly, like actually noticeably, which is probably the worst timing imaginable. So I walked back my decision, and with Halloween right around the corner, I quickly rushed to make a Halloween event, which put a pause on the devlog's development. This update included a limited time biome players could access using tickets, which are found in chests. In the Halloween biome, players could earn candy corn and exchange it for exclusive Halloween cosmetics. Now this update was received fairly well, and it bought me enough time to finish the devlog. The devlog was a slow burn to say the least, as it only received 500 views at the time, but at this very moment it has close to 5,000 views almost a year later. Now, the new update and devlog had great effects on my analytics, bringing the game up to 2,000 downloads on iOS and 715 downloads on Android. And to ride this wave of players, I released an update. A few in fact, including a revamped museum, mythic fish, achievements, a Christmas event, and a new biome, the lava lakes. And once again, out of nowhere, the player base spiked, which at this point the game had reached the highest players yet. Not because of my updates, not because of my devlog, because one random TikTok account made a single video. I ignored the potential of good marketing that this TikTok showed me and didn't learn anything from it. The game soon reached close to 5,000 downloads across both platforms and earned a grand total of $52.26 from in-app purchases and 33 New Zealand dollars from advertisements, which I couldn't even access because Unity stops you from withdrawing ad revenue below 100 USD. But even if I ignored that fact, the game's revenue had only managed to climb to negative $204.74. And to rub salt into the wound, downloads began to slow down and the player base rapidly fell without consistent updates that mobile games have grown to be expected of. I couldn't provide that level of content the game needed, as I was just one kid still in school working on it in my free time, let alone I wasn't even motivated to try. I decided it was like beating a dead horse trying to make this game go big by then, so I decided to just completely stop updating the game. I left the game to rot, and when the yearly Apple developer fee came along, I couldn't justify paying it, so I didn't. And then one day, the game just wasn't there anymore. I soon moved on to other projects, but my motivation to make games took a hit, and it seemed that it was basically the end of Holy Mackerel. Every now and then I would receive a very kind-hearted review from Android, but the player base just continued to gradually dwindle, which brings you up to today. The game now has a mere 350 downloads and hasn't made any revenue since the last update, aside from a grand total of 20 cents from ad revenue, which I still can't even withdraw. And over the years, it has gotten a total of 9,193 installs, with 3,713 coming from Android and 5,480 coming from iOS. But it's not all bad news, because recently I missed working on Holy Mackerel, and I've been cooking up one of the biggest updates for the game ever. I basically recoded half of the game to improve performance and to make it easier to create updates, let alone a new form of progression, cosmetic changes, new biomes, quality of life changes, and so much more. This isn't a desperate attempt to try and make money from the game. I've genuinely missed making this game. What I wanted to do with this update is to bring the game's quality up to what I would expect from my skill level these days. And to put it simply, all of the changes I've made in the past month or two have made me proud to show off the game again. But that is for another devlog, which hopefully won't take another year before I make it. Now, if you do want to play the game on Apple again, or just want to support it, I've created a very small Kickstarter to help cover the funds of the licensing fee, so I don't send my revenue even further into the negatives. Anyone who backs it will receive exclusive cosmetics if it succeeds. Most of this video I have been pretty negative about the game's performance, but I actually feel quite the opposite. If you were to qualify Holy Mackerel's success by any financial measurement, it was a failure, but to me it wasn't. I've learned so much from making this game, I've met so many wonderful people, and for over 3 years I've been able to come home excited to create something I'm passionate about. I want to take a moment to thank everyone who tried the game, anyone who left a review, and anyone who supported the game in any other shape or form. You've given me the motivation to do what I love, and for that I'm so grateful. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next one. Hopefully not a year away from now, but it most likely is. If you want to stick around, you can subscribe or whatever, and if you feel like checking out Holy Mackerel or the Kickstarter, links are down below. See you guys.